Mark, this is, wow, this is such an important day. It's just amazing to be able to be here talking about the PFAS Accountability Act and to see what is possible here looming on our horizon, that we can actually change this, and that this situation that we've been dealing with now for 70 years, we can actually provide relief to people. That these PFAS chemicals have been manufactured by a small group of companies who have been pumping them out into our environment for over 70 years, knowing that these chemicals, if they got out into our environment, would stay in our environment virtually forever. We now refer to them as forever chemicals, that they would get into our water, that they would get into our food, and most importantly, that they would get into us and they would stay in us. And unfortunately, most of the rest of us didn't learn about this until just recently. Why? Because that information was withheld. It was covered up for decades. And when the information finally started to come out, and it only came out because a farmer in West Virginia whose cows were dying had the courage to stand up and demand answers to the questions of what was killing his cows and what was in the water coming out of that landfill, that we actually first started learning that these chemicals even existed. Yet as people started to finally learn that these things were out there, that they were in our water, that they were in our environment, that they were in our blood, and people started trying to find ways to deal with it, what they found out was they were not regulated. They were not listed under federal laws or state laws. Why? Because that information had been withheld for decades. So people were forced to turn to the courts. And unfortunately, throughout the country where this has popped up, most people are being told they don't have an ability to do anything in court. They're told they don't have an injury. They aren't injured yet. They have to wait and find out if they get cancer, if they become sick, if they die. Yet one of the few exceptions to this was the story that was portrayed that Mark Ruffalo and his team at Participant did an amazing job bringing to the screen for the rest of the world and for the public to see, that one community in West Virginia was able to actually do something in court. Why? Because they had the ability to seek medical monitoring through a tort claim, that the courts allowed them to pursue that claim. And because of that, that community was able to actually get studies done sufficient to confirm what the health effects of that PFAS chemical were that they were exposed to, that it was linked with cancer, with thyroid disease, with preeclampsia, ulcerative colitis, high cholesterol, and importantly, to be able to have the company who was responsible pay to have that study done. Why? Because these communities are told they, as the exposed people, have the burden to prove that these chemicals are causing them harm, while the companies who are exposing them can sit back and say, you haven't proven it yet. You need to do a bigger study. You need hundreds of thousands of people or tens of thousands of people. And what communities have the money and the funding to do that? So it's incredible to see that the communities like in West Virginia, people like Wilbur Tennant, who stood up, spoke out, had their voices heard, had that story come out to the rest of the public. Other communities across the country, those like Joanne and Anthony and Lorene, other parts of this country that were able to say, this is impacting all of us. Something needs to be done. Those voices were heard. And most remarkably, we have lawmakers that listened. I can't thank enough Senator Gillibrand, Congressman Kildee, Congresswoman Dean, for understanding the importance of this issue and crafting a way to fix this, to give people the right to come into court to say this is an injury, you shouldn't have to suffer like this. And the companies that did this, they should be the ones responsible for paying whatever the costs are, not the taxpayers, not the residents who are being used as guinea pigs. So thank you so much to Senator, the Congressman, and to the community advocates, Mark, and the folks that were able to bring this story out and reach the public in a way that we're now seeing the opportunity for amazing change here. So thank you so much.